If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you start. This is a powerful quote from a man full of self-belief and determination in achieving success, but not just for himself. So who are we talking about? Before I get started, welcome back to Talk to Miguel, where we believe everyone has a story to tell, and every story deserves to be told. Here, it is our aim to tell more positive and inspirational stories. All right, today let's talk about a guy who didn't just dream about the future, he tried to build it. A guy who believed that black Jamaicans everywhere, black people everywhere, Jamaica, America, the UK, Africa, we all deserve to own businesses, to rule our own land, to control our own destiny. A guy so powerful, the FBI literally called him the most dangerous black man in America. And guess what? He was from right here in Jamaica. His name? Marcus Mosiah Garvey. If you've heard someone say Africa for Africans or talk about black unity and self-reliance, you've already heard Garvey's influence. But here's the crazy part. He did this before civil rights, before Malcolm X, before any African nation even got its independence. So how did a Jamaican boy from St. Anne's Bay go on to inspire movements across the world? Let's get into it. So Marcus Garvey was born in 1887. Jamaica was still under British rule, which meant all the land, all the businesses, all the power. Yeah, that wasn't in black people's hands. If you're black, you work for someone else. And that someone else was usually rich and white. Garvey's dad was a self-taught man. He owned a few books, which was a rare thing at the time. And young Marcus, he read everything. But it didn't take books though to tell him something was wrong. He could see it. Black Jamaicans had been free from slavery for over 50 years, but they were still at the bottom. And that question started brewing in his head. Why? Why are we still struggling to own land? Now, Garvey wasn't the type to just sit around wondering. He needed answers. So he traveled, first to Central America, then Ecuador, then London. And everywhere he went, it was the same story. Black people struggling, white people running things. Whether it was workers on a banana plantation in Costa Rica or Africans in London treated like second-class citizens. It was all connected. That's when he started to put the pieces together. This wasn't just a Jamaican problem. This was global. And if we are all facing the same struggle, then we needed a global solution. So in 1914, Garvey goes back to Jamaica and starts the United Negro Improvement Association, or UNIA. But it was in New York that things really took off. And let me tell you, this man knew how to fire people up. His message was simple. We need our own businesses, our own land, our own power. We don't need to beg anyone for a seat at the table. Let's build our own table. This wasn't just talk. By the early 1920s, the UNIA had 6 million members worldwide. That's insane. And the movement just wasn't in the US. It spread across Caribbean, Africa, Europe. This was the first true global black movement. And all at the time before social media. Now here's where Garvey went big. He didn't just say we need black businesses. He built one. He started Black Star Line, a shipping company meant to connect black people across the world. Jamaica, America, Africa, the Caribbean. Trade, travel, ownership, all of it. And listen, people believed in this. Black folk who had never been allowed to have real stake in the economy invested their money. They wanted a part of something bigger than themselves. But there was a problem. The ships. They were old and faulty. The management, not great. And then on top of that, the US government was watching. Garvey was getting too powerful, and the US government wasn't having it. J. Edgar Hoover, yes, the same guy who later targeted MLK and Malcolm X, wanted him gone. They hit him with mail fraud charges relating to the Black Star Line, even when black people said They had not been defrauded. Now, was it a real crime? Debatable. But was it a way to shut him down? Absolutely. In 1925, Garvey was thrown in prison, and in 1927, he was deported back to Jamaica. The movement, it lost momentum, but the ideas, those never died. All right, so Garvey was arrested, deported, and eventually passed away in 1940, right? But here's the thing. You can lock up a man, but you can't lock up an idea. And Garvey's ideas, they didn't just survive, they spread like wildfire and changed the world. Let's see how. Firstly, the civil rights movement and black power in the US. Malcolm's Malcolm X's father was a Garveyite. He literally raised Malcolm on Garvey's philosophy of black pride and economic self-reliance. The Nation of Islam, led by Elijah Muhammad, was also heavily influenced by Garvey's ideas. The Black Panther Party, the guys who started free school breakfast programs and defended black communities, took Garvey's self-defense and self-reliance message and ran with it. Even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who preached nonviolence, acknowledged Garvey's impact. Without Garvey, there might not have been a civil rights movement as we know it. The long-term impact of this, the concept of black economic empowerment and self-reliance, owning your own business, building your own wealth, that came from Garvey. The idea that black people should stand up for themselves and not wait for white society to give them rights, that came from Garvey. Next, African independence. Garvey inspired liberation movement. Garvey's idea reached Africa way before independence was even thought of. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Ghana's first president, studied Garvey and made Ghana the first African country to break free of colonial rule in 1957. Jomo Kenyatta, Kenya's first president, was also deeply inspired by Garvey. The Pan-African movement, which pushed for a united Africa and the end of European rule, was built on Garvey's dream of a powerful, self-governing black world. The long-term impact, many African leaders saw Garvey as a prophet of black liberation. His ideas that Africa belonged to the Africans helped spark decolonization. The African Union, AU, which today represents all African nations working together, echoes Garvey's Pan-African dream. Third, the Rastafarian movement, Garvey as a prophet. If you know about Rastafarian culture, you know Marcus Garvey's name is everywhere. In the 1920s, Garvey famously said, "Look to Africa, where a black king shall be crowned, for the day of deliverance is near." In 1930, Haile Selassie was crowned Emperor of Ethiopia, and many saw this as Garvey's prophecy fulfilled. Rastafarians believe Garvey was a spiritual leader who helped awaken black people to their African roots. Long-term impact, reggae music, which carries messages of black pride and African unity, was influenced by Garvey's teaching. Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Burning Spear all of them referenced Garvey in their music. The global spread of Rastafarian culture owes a lot to Garvey's early teachings on Pan-Africanism. Fourth, black-owned businesses and economic independence. Garvey's message of black self-reliance wasn't just about liberation, it was about money. His philosophy was simple. If you own your own business, support each other, and build our own economy, we don't need to rely on anyone else. Garvey's UNIA had a chapter in Tulsa, and his message inspired many business owners and community leaders in Greenwood. How that ended, that's another story. Today, that idea is thriving in movements like Buy Black campaigns, encouraging people to spend money in black-owned businesses. Black Wall Street revival efforts inspired by historic black business districts like the Tulsa Greenwood district. Financial literacy programs aimed at teaching black people how to invest, save, and create generational wealth. The long-term impact, the shift towards economic independence in black communities worldwide, is a direct extension of Garvey's teachings. Programs teaching entrepreneurship, real estate investment, and wealth building for black families are all Garvey inspired. whether directly or indirectly. Finally, Marcus Garvey name lives on. In 1964, Jamaica officially named Marcus Garvey a national hero, the first in the country's history. His birthday, August 17, is celebrated as Marcus Garvey Day in Jamaica and across the Black diaspora. His influence is still felt in schools named after him, statues, and murals worldwide. Books, movies, and documentaries about his movement. Long-term impact. Garvey went from being a so-called troublemaker to being recognized as one of the greatest Black leaders of all time. His ideas are still shaping Black consciousness, culture, and economics today. So here's my question for you. Is Garvey's vision still possible today? Are we still pushing for economic power, for unity, for control over our own future? Drop a comment below. Let's talk. And if you think Garvey's message still needs to be heard, hit the like, subscribe, and share. Because history is not just about the past, it's about what we do with it. And one final quote from the great man. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Remember, share the video, like and subscribe. See you next time and talk to Miguel.